Hello everyone, and welcome to another beer review. Now this is the beer review for people that aren't interested in home brewing and discussing my exploits of trying to make a copy of Old Peculiar. So today we're going to be doing Courage Director's Superior Ale. Woohoo! If that's lined up like this, the back label is away over to there. It's off over to it. It's a bit skewed at the back there. So Courage, well, let's be totally honest, Courage is long gone. In fact, I did a Courage Russian Imperial Stout on Christmas Eve. It was a bit of a strange one because it actually got better as the air kind of obviously, when I first tried it, it was absolutely vile. But when I was doing the other beer next to it, I was doing a dual one because obviously I knew potentially if it could be bad, then I'm not going to just sit there and just talk about how bad this beer is. So I also had a backup beer. So while I was doing the backup beer, it just allowed the other one to kind of rest and settle in the glass and obviously get a bit of air round about it and actually improve quite dramatically. So it just shows you that. So this is Courage. Courage breweries are long gone. And this is a superior ale. It's brewed to the director's standard. It's 4.8%, and unfortunately, as I was reading the back previously, because I'm thinking, where is this made? Now, of course, originally brewed exclusively for the directors of the brewery, this amber ale is full of character with a distinctive spicy hop aroma, the perfect balance of crystal malt with crisp, fruity, nutty hops and a lasting finish. A lasting finish. What the fuck does that mean? A lasting finish? It's changing to bits so working properly. I've had problems with the mic before. I think it is, yeah. Now, apparently it's supposed to be a lasting finish, so it says. Now, let's be totally honest. Courage and the name and everything else and the brand and all this type of stuff, it's now owned and controlled by that little quaint and local brewing company called Carlsberg Marston. You know, that huge conglomerate brewery from Europe that, let's be totally honest, produces more piss than probably the whole of the population of the UK combined. But, and the reason why I know this is because when I read the brewery that basically has been chosen to make this a director's cut, is the brewery known as the Eagle Brewery in Bedford. Now I've come across the Eagle Brewery, and two of the most standout beers that I've tried has been the banana bread beer and the sticky toffee pudding beer, which are two of some of the worst beers I've ever bloody tasted. And they were absolutely vile. In fact, the sticky toffee pudding one was probably the worst beer of 2021. It was the worst. I'll be totally honest, the banana bread beer wasn't far behind it. I mean, out of all the beers that I drunk in 2021, the two of them were the worst beers, easily the worst beers that I actually tasted in 2021, and are still up there as some of the worst beers I've ever tasted. So it doesn't look good. And I think I did do another Eagle Brewery one not that long ago. I can't recall the name of it, but I do remember I did do another one. It wasn't so bad. It definitely wasn't as bad as them two. But what I will do is I will put them in the link. In fact, I might put all three of them in the link at the end of the video, so you can compare what's coming under the Courage name from the same brewery as the other kind of more Eagle based beers that they've kind of produced under their own kind of branding. So yeah, so like I said, it's a 500ml bottle. Now, I don't know how much this costs, because again, this is another donation from our friend, well, your friend and mine, or my friend and yours, Adrian. Adrian has been back donating. He's probably thinking he's been drinking enough piss. Now let's sort this out now. Let's basically make a donation so he's not basically reviewing piss. And he's kind of stepped in there and thought, enough's enough. Stop the nonsense and start reviewing normal beers. Now we're back onto the kind of the old traditional glass today because some buggers have been nicking my pint glasses. Now they're somewhere in the house, and I think I know the culprit. He's probably the youngest boy. You've got a bad habit is that he'll pick things up. Oh, that'll do. Use it, and then it'll just sit in his room until his mum goes in and says, what the hell's going on here? Half the bloody dishes are missing, and they're all basically kind of congregating in his bedroom, festering away. Yes, joys of teenage kids. So, let's crack this open and see what it's like. Oh, long time since I've did this. Ooh, there we go. So this is an amber ale. Now, Courage was obviously quite a well-known name and brewer in the past in the UK and especially England, and they did a lot of kind of good beers, but again, unfortunately, they were bought over by the conglomerate, and this is what you're left with. So there you go. That's what it looks like. Courage Director's Superior Ale, 4.8%, 500ml. God knows what it costs, but it'll probably be at least under £2 anyway. And well, that's a bit ominous. First smell I'm getting is slightly kind of carbonation. I'm getting a slightly kind of perry effect, whereas like all I'm getting is a kind of smell of carbonated liquid or water. So I'm getting a bit of that. Not really getting much malt. Not really getting any grain. In fact, I'm not really getting much, which is probably doesn't come as a surprise, is when the kind of predominant aroma that I'm getting when I'm first smelling it is carbonation. Yeah, there's no real smell there at all. That's quite disappointing. But anyway, let's see what it tastes like. Oh dear, oh dear. Kind of lacking flavour, to be totally honest. Notice there's a slight bitterness, but more dryness to the kind of aftertaste. There's a little bit of malty sweetness at the start, not much. There's not really much going in the mid-tongue, maybe a little bit of grain, a little bit of maltiness, but it's quite dead in the mid-tongue, so not much really going on at the front of the mouth, not really much going on at the mid-tongue, and there's a little bit of bitterness in the aftertaste, but there's more of a kind of a dryness sensation, which again is usually due to with kind of a slight acidity change. As the beer is mixed in with your saliva, you get a slight kind of acidic change. Oh. Maybe a slight nuttiness, what they're saying, a slight nuttiness, there maybe a slight nuttiness there, and what else they're saying, fruity. I'm getting absolutely no fruitiness. I'm definitely getting a crispness. There's a crispness there and there's a dryness, especially at the end. But fruitiness, well, I can't taste anything. My view is try it yourself and see if you can find it, because I sure as hell I can't. My throat's not too bad, maybe a slightly bit more carbonated than it needs to be, but I'd say that I have been drinking on a previous review Old Peculiar from the bottle, and that's slightly a bit over carbonated as well, so yeah. Yeah, like I said, there's front of the mouth, a little bit, very light malty sweetness, a little bit of grain, moves on to the mid-tongue, and yeah, the mid-tongue's almost a repeat of the front of the mouth. There's very little sometimes you expect kind of flavours to kind of die down a bit in the mid-tongue and other flavours to come through and everything else, but no. It's almost an exact repetition of the kind of front of the mouth. There's nothing really extra coming in, and it's just kind of almost the same kind of level of intensity of flavour and everything else. It's just a very light malty sweetness and a very kind of bland kind of grain flavour. And then it goes on to the mid-tongue, you are getting a bit of bitterness, and it's slightly kind of, it is that kind of hoppy bitterness, because you are getting that slightly kind of a pithy kind of flavour as well. So there's a bitterness to the aftertaste, but it's not a kind of, what I call a kind of nice or kind of controlled bitterness. It's that kind of like reckless, pithy one, like kind of, well, let's lick the inside of an orange skin, that type of thing. And you think, well, yeah, I'm getting bitterness. Is it a pleasant bitterness? No, it's just bitterness. And that's what you're getting. So you're getting that kind of bitterness. It's not a pleasant one, and there's not really a kind of a sweetness there to kind of balance it out or whatever. It's just, but you're also getting this kind of dryness, this kind of slightly acidity kind of trait that you would probably get more in lagers than you would get so much in ales. So you're getting that there as well. So you're getting kind of this dryness and this kind of pithy bitterness, and it's like, not exactly a very good kind of finish. In fact, the front wasn't that great, the mid-tongue isn't that great, and now we're at the blooming aftertaste. It's like, well, you're kind of falling your arse even more, It's like, Jesus, I pity the directors having had to drink this piss. Yeah. Out of 10, what would I give it? Because I really don't want to drink any more of it, so I'm not going to say any more about it. So what would I give it out of 10? Out of 10, what would I give it? I'm looking on the basis of, it's probably at least £1.50 to £2 in that kind of price range. It's only 4.8, so it's under the 5%. I can understand if the front of the mouth was pleasant or the mid-tongue was pleasant, but the front of the mouth, the mid-tongue's quite bland. There's just nothing really there, and then the aftertaste is just, well, in my view, it's just lacking, and just, I'm not going to say horrible or that type of stuff, but it's just not particularly pleasant, in my view. And it's below average, and it's kind of tossing between a 3 and a 4. I think if there was something in the kind of front of the mouth or the mid-tongue, then I would probably give it a 4, but there isn't. There's just nothing really there that's kind of providing any enjoyment. It really is. It's like, I'll be totally honest, if I was sitting there with friends and I cracked that open and I thought, right, I have a couple of sips of that's just, no. I would do an Adrian. An Adrian knows exactly what I'm talking about. It'd be going in the sink. After a couple of sips, thinking, no, I can't work with that. That's just not good. There's better time spent drinking better beers. So I would pour this down the sink. So that's where we're at. So on that basis, it's a 3. That's the best I can give it. 3 out of 10. Would I recommend it? Probably not. Give it a go, give it a try, but I'll be totally honest. It doesn't surprise me coming from this brewery. Although I think I did one of their other ones. I'm trying to remember the name, it's annoying, but I think I gave that not a bad score. I think I maybe gave it a 5 or a 6. So, I mean, I'm not against that brewery, but at the end of the day, the 2 beers that I remember it for, which was a sticky toffee pudding and the banana bread beer, because I was having problems to get. It was actually recommended by a friend of mine, and it was a friend of mine's wife, and then they sent me a bottle because I was struggling to get it and that type of stuff. But they are a bit of a kind of a gimmick, from that point of view. So it was a bit of a gimmick kind of beer, and same with the sticky toffee pudding kind of version as well. They weren't particularly nice beers, but I think they were just supposed to be a bit of a gimmick. What would you call it? Yeah, it was not really supposed to be taken seriously, I think, from that point of view. There was a slightly kind of comedic kind of element to it. So yes, this one is just, it's supposed to be a serious beer under the name of Courage, and I think they've totally let the Courage name down. Courage is better than this. And let's be totally honest, Courage would have produced a better beer than this in lots of different ways. So yes, I think it's a bit unfair from that point of view. So I don't think they've really done the Courage name justice, and I think that's one of the big problems when we lose breweries to the big conglomerates. Then they just kind of dish out, well, I want you to make this beer under this name, and I want you to make this beer under that name, and at the end of the day, it's just box ticking and keeping the accountants happy. And unfortunately, I think this beer definitely is keeping the accountants happy, because it certainly wouldn't keep the drinker, the poor sod that's actually drinking it, happy. So yeah, 3 out of 10. I wouldn't recommend it, but my view is give it a go and prove me wrong. So, thanks for watching. Cheers, and bye for now.